Hi there, this is Billy Earl, and this is Eastern Shore Politics. Our guest today is a gentleman running for mayor of Salsbury. On this show, is Randy Taylor. Randy, thank you for taking the time out of your, very hectic schedule, because I know these things are, a mile a minute.
Thank you, Billy. I appreciate it being
When we talked at the last time that you were on the show, it was interesting to me, the nature of this race, and kind of some of the things about it may be a little disturbing, maybe a little bit off-putting.
It's taken me back a little bit. I kind of got this race because I love Salsbury.
Yeah.
And I have been, I think, a fan of the town in terms of my actions. And I've tried to renovate properties. I think I'm on number 22 or 23. I own some rental property. And, I've been a big fan of the downtown and I like to think of, a good citizen being in banking for 25 years in commercial.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised that at some point there was a small group of, I guess, connected to Megan's campaign, like his Lower Shore Progressives caucus, were leveling baseless claims, which and then about me being a slumlord, or that I was anti-union and things.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and that was a little surprising. The latest of which was they charged that Jermichael had dropped out of the race, and that was sort of why I raised it at the forum on Tuesday night. And but as a general statement, it has been a little bit weird. I think I asked Megan to apologize and kind of retract those emails, which I don't know how big a group they're sending them to, but and she didn't really acknowledge that. So, but at the end of the day, I think it was a little strange. It's for a small town mayoral race. People just putting their best foot forward to try and represent the city.
Well, I think she said she had nothing to do with that group. That's hard to imagine.
Yeah, she said that, but of course, she's been donating for the last couple of years to them. They sent a mailing out on her behalf, and I think she's on their board as well. So, to kind of detach the two from her campaign, there's a few people in that organization which I understand are very much behind Megan, and I think we're the author in part, at least in part, with regard to the emails or false emails that were being put out. So,
well, it doesn't. It doesn't show well, does it?
I didn't think so.
No, I think a lot of voters didn't. I know in my community, we talk about politics a good bit, and everybody's trying to keep up with this, and they would rather not have that kind of smear used. It's just not. It's not the way Salsbury is supposed to operate.
Yeah, I would have thought. I think Jermichael and I both have maintained decorum and
gentlemen.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was expecting. But in any event, I think hopefully it's dissipated.
Well, you got 13 days left?
Yep, it sounds like.
Okay, what are you up to?
Knocking on doors and having interviews like this.
Hard to beat knocking on doors, isn't it?
Yeah, meet a lot of great people, and it's funny, you run into little niche issues with people, which is interesting. Not the bigger stuff. People talking about bike lanes and bag taxes and downtown projects, but you run into, little issues that set people off and want to talk about, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, interesting. In my neighborhood, one of my neighbors, who's a good guy, has been getting some flack from the city about his grass being too high, and the grade of his yard being inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. A lot of people don't think that local government has as much of an impact on them as it does. Mm-hmm. They think, oh, well, no, the only important stuff comes from the state or from the federal. Mm-hmm. Not true. That has not been my experience at all, and I think most people should pay more attention to local government because much of the impact on their lives comes directly from there.
Yeah, potholes, curbs being repaired. That's another thing that came out that a lot of these little 2-square sidewalk repairs are months and months behind, and that seems to me like the reverse. Put the bigger stuff to a block of time in the calendar.
Right.
These little things, just knock them out. Whatever methodology you can use, but people are worried about being sued because they stepped into
right,
and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think I think, as in a general statement, I think that one of the reasons I jumped in this race is it seems like we've had 5 increases, tax increases in 11 years, and the service has kind of deteriorated. So the inverse is not great. The relationship between those two things is not great.
The economic the wallet issues are a constant refrain that I hear.
Yeah.
It's not just the fact that people are unhappy at a time right now to be paying as much taxes as they are, but you're right, they're not getting the return.
Yeah, and I think the prior administration, which again, I think there was some good that came out of that in terms of the downtown and the main streets, but they're so focused on capital projects. One of the things that came up at the forum the other day was they were saying, the city of Salsbury got a lot of great PR, and I think that's true. They did get good PR for a host of reasons, but some of that was a mile wide and an inch deep. If you look beyond the covers, it's like I said, we've had a massive amount of tax increases in several years in a row, on top of record assessment increases. So our base has gone up, our effective rate's gone up, and now we're trying to entice developers to do projects in downtown and then defer, not just to defer, but forgive taxes for some period of time, plus tap-in fees, which in my opinion is going on the backs of the taxpayers that are already paying the increases now.
Okay. Wow.
So it's
what do you have in mind as mayor?
As a switch?
Yeah.
Well, I can't speak to what we've already agreed to.
Oh no, that's
challenging.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah. So, I just ran into this morning. I ran into a fireman this morning about a fireman with City of Salsbury Station 2, and we got talking about the labor code and this and that. And so I had the same conversation with him. I mean, I think if you're talking about running for mayor, you're going to take over the ship. You got to make sure the anchor's not down, the engine's not frozen, you got gas.
Right.
So I don't really know, and I've studied the last 3 audits where there's been some massive switches in line items, which I don't understand. But to your point, what would I do? I think the first thing I do is I kind of find out what's going on in some of these numbers. You can't really get good quality information out of the city, particularly if you're running for mayor, because they're trying to. So at some level, they're not giving you good necessarily quality information. So I've been working hard behind the scenes to try and figure out where we are. But, I think the issue of fairness is what comes to mind.
Okay.
Fairness to the taxpayers, fairness to creating incentives for people to come here and develop. So that would be what I would say. Developing a fair and equitable approach to all of that.
The buzz that I hear is that the financial management of the city is the most important issue that people are concerned about.
Yeah.
And if they're looking at the 3 of you as candidates, let's be frank, you're the only one who really has, background in this.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's the recurring theme that I've come to know with people. They are constantly talking to me about what are we going to do about this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And I've said this many times during the campaign. We spent a lot of capital dollars solving problems that we didn't have and not solving the ones that we do. And we haven't addressed the tax differential. We haven't attacked the fire code agreement, the fire agreement, and we haven't attack the disparity grant.
Okay.
So all 3 of those are brand new sources of revenue, not the fire agreement, but new sources of revenue that we could work out with the county that I think would help us dramatically. I just had a conversation with John Cannon this morning. We're talking about one thing and another, just topically, because we were friends anyway. But in any event, he, I think the spirit is that we could come to an agreement on something like that, on those items, and I think we desperately need to.
It's important to have somebody in the mayoral position here who can speak to the council, county council.
Yeah, I think so. Going back, I was just going to say that I think the prior administration focused on some capital projects and had a kind of a one-track mind in some regards. Not that we're not interested in doing those kinds of things as well, but I think we're going to solve problems that we need to solve.
Okay. What would you like to say to John Doe voter and his lovely bride, Mrs. Voter? What would you like to say to them about you?
Well, one of the things I said again in the forum was that I'm really running not because I want to be a politician or I want to be in charge, but I'm really running for Mr. and Mrs. John Doe,
Yeah.
neighbor. I think a lot of us have felt, and I've felt, and I'm kind of in the know, kind of felt run over by the last couple of years of things happening for which we had no control, and all we're really given is the bill.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they did notify us by the bill that they were doing something. But I guess what I'm saying is that I would like to think that, or I'd like to let them know that my goal is their goal. That is to maintain a quality community in Salsbury, grow appropriately, healthfully, but keep in mind that we have priorities, and those priorities are not going to come at their expense. It's going to be a participation. It's going to be an open, transparent environment, and I think we can and will develop a budget that reflects our values, and we live within our means.
Because where you spend your money determines what your values are.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, this is Billy Earl. We have had a marvelous conversation here about Mr. Randy Taylor running for mayor. I want to urge everyone to get out and vote. Grab your neighbor, grab mama, grab little Tommy, who's now 18 years old and thinks the government doesn't affect him. Get to the polls, vote on November 7th, and just remember that the basis of democracy is the ability and the desire to vote. This has been Billy Earl here on Eastern Shore Politics. Thank you for tuning in. Namaste.